Lee North was not an individual prone to panic. In fact, during her tenure as the senior curator at the Galactic Archives of Royd Prime, she prided herself on maintaining what she liked to call a methodically unflappable disposition. She organized myriad documents from dozens of star systems every day without batting any of her 3 eyelids, calmly categorizing each artifact while ignoring any flamboyant rumors. It was, after all, standard procedure in the archives to treat every ominous tablet, cosmic tapestry, or cursed data slate as an overblown piece of historical eccentricity. But the day she encountered a file marked with 73 consecutive crossouts, each labeled "Warning, Earth," she felt an unfamiliar jolt of apprehension. That single word, Earth, scrawled or etched or encoded in every known form of language the archives had ever encountered, seemed to carry the weight of ancient dread. Each time she tried to file it, her system flagged it as misfiled. She would manually record it, re-stamp it with the correct classification, and yet again the file would appear in the urgent unsorted queue the next morning. At first, Lee North believed it was just a glitch, the sort of glitch that occasionally happened when incompatible software met outdated hardware. Yet there was something else. She sensed the presence of a pattern, an underlying puzzle that refused to be locked away in the stasis of archival boxes. Over her many cycles, Lee North had learned to trust her instincts. And those instincts were telling her that the repeated reappearance of Earth's name could not be random. Even her calm, unflappable temperament knew this required attention. More attention than her superiors would allow. If nothing else, she wanted to banish this file to its proper place once and for all. She decided on her next shift to do a deeper search through the archives. The "Warning, Earth" file was too vague to be truly helpful on its own. So she dove into the intangible networks of the digital archives, searching for that same word across all declassified, and perhaps a few not so declassified, records. To her astonishment, results popped up not as a neat list but as a chaotic jumble of references spanning centuries, millennia, even eons before her own civilization had fully charted the galaxy. Some references appeared in official forms that were bizarrely short, notes from extinct races reading simply, "Don't go. Don't trust them." Others took the shape of entire volumes written by species who had tried, apparently, to study Earth in depth. And then there were those that arrived at the archives and signed, like the frantic transmissions of a crew lost in an unknown corner of space. One repeated line jumped out at her: "Earth only pretends to sleep." It appeared in variant forms, across hundreds of different species' tongues, from the ancient runes of the Kral to the resonant pulses used by the Helix swarm. Lee North read it over and over. "Earth only pretends to sleep." A chill slithered through her carapace. She understood the typical xenologist's approach: if a planet seemed underdeveloped, if its inhabitants appeared non-threatening, it was standard to classify them as lesser or behind the galactic curve. But that phrase implied something else, something that made her wonder if the planet's so-called primitiveness was, in fact, a cosmic ploy. That concept rattled her. Could an entire civilization choose to appear simpler than it was, for centuries on end, just to bait or mislead the galaxy? And what had happened to those that tried to unmask the ruse? Feeling not quite herself, Lee North decided to violate a few minor rules. She had never done it before, she was devoutly by the book. But her curiosity, along with a prickling sense of dread, urged her to investigate deeper. She requested clearance to search through the Extinct Races repository, a section known for cautionary tales and rumored curses. Normally, archivists visited that section only to confirm genealogical details or find historical patterns. The prospect of rummaging around in it for intangible leads about a single planet seemed nonsensical. Yet there she was, surreptitiously scanning through star logs from lost civilizations. She identified references to Earth in official records by the Trells, who apparently found Earth during what humans called the 18th century. The Trells left behind a single puzzling statement: they craft illusions of ignorance. We fear what we cannot see beyond the illusions. Another record from a once powerful empire known as the Shendri simply read, "We arrived in ships that bent gravity to our will. We left with only enough sanity to scrawl this warning. Do not watch them too closely." Lenorth swallowed, suddenly thankful that no one was looming over her shoulder. She realized that each of these warnings painted the same portrait: Earth was a snare for the overconfident. Yet the official classification of Earth had always read pre-industrial, a backwater, a place that never truly joined the galactic stage. Something wasn't adding up. Perhaps the spookiest find came from the Axial Hegemony's logs. They were a race obsessed with infiltration. The hegemony had documented infiltration attempts of worlds that looked prime for subjugation. According to these files, they found Earth during what might have been the humans' 20th century. The infiltration squad, armed with advanced cloaking suits and neural translators, managed to blend in. Their official last transmission simply said, "It's all a stage. They're not behind in technology, they've left us behind." That was it. The next day, the entire axial hegemony collapsed from within, with no trace of external attack. The other species in the galaxy had concluded that they must have run afoul of some internal political strife, as sometimes happened in large empires. But Lenorth, reading between the lines, saw a hidden culprit: Earth. Possibly a quiet assimilation or complete neutralization. The logic rattled her. If Earth was so advanced, so cunning, why stay hidden in that place humans called the solar system? Why not conquer everything? She found a partial answer in a more obscure piece of data. It seemed Earth had hosted visitors from the Pulfari Union eons ago, well before humanity had advanced beyond rudimentary chemical engines. The Pulfari prided themselves on social manipulation. They believed that controlling a species' culture was more potent than conquering them with force. Their final message, an audio encryption that took Lenorth a day to decode, contained frantic whispers. "We tried to slip into their broadcast networks, but we found a labyrinth. Memes. Endless trivialities. Each trivial piece was a puzzle in disguise. We never reached the core. They kept sending us pictures of small animals. Or so we believed. Then our entire infiltration apparatus gave way. And that was it. The Pulfari Union had disintegrated soon after. Officially, the galaxy believed it was an economic collapse. Now Lenorth wondered whether it was a result of meddling with Earth's intangible illusions. She had read many accounts of Earth's so-called internet, often dismissed as a chaotic morass. Maybe it wasn't chaotic at all, maybe it was meticulously curated to repel intruders with nonsense so potent that advanced minds lost themselves in the swirl of cat images and contradictory arguments. Armed with a growing trove of evidence, Lenorth did what archivists typically never did: she compiled her own personal summary and placed it into an active data queue. She titled it, "Report on Potentially Hazardous Primitive Planet Number 92337, Human Designation, Earth." The official label was bland enough to avoid immediate suspicion from superiors, but the content was damning, cross-referenced historical proof that every race who dug deeply into Earth had disappeared. She wove together quotes from all those near-extinct societies, each referencing the illusions and the subtle sense that Earth was, at best, feigning ignorance. It was one thing to read a single cryptic warning. It was quite another to see them layered side by side, spanning multiple epochs, with each carrying near-identical sentiments. She finished it with her own chilling hypothesis: either Earth is a cosmic anomaly, in which countless explorers simply vanished for unrelated reasons, or Earth is orchestrating these vanishings. Either possibility demands thorough re-evaluation. Then she locked the file under a mid-level clearance code, hoping it would stay put. It was probably enough to get her a stern reprimand, but not so bold that she'd be fired. At least, that was her plan. Late the next day, as she quietly archived a fresh set of historical transmissions, Lenorth watched with horror as her own report reappeared in her urgent unsorted queue, flagged in bright orange. The flag read, misfiled document number 74. She blinked. She had not misfiled it. She was absolutely certain. The system insisted otherwise. She glanced around, worried that someone had discovered her personal foray into restricted records. Yet no one else seemed the least bit concerned. Her colleagues chattered about mundane tasks and swapped gossip. The sight of her own secret summary labeled misfiled unsettled her enough that she opened it, scanning each paragraph to ensure it was intact. That was when she saw the new line at the bottom: "If you're reading this, we know you're curious. Come closer, we have coffee." It was not her text. Someone or something had edited her file. Lee North nearly dropped her datapad. She had read about coffee in many references to Earth. It was described as a beverage made from roasted beans that humans prized above almost anything else. Could it be a human infiltration of the archives? Or was the system glitching in some cosmic joke? She took a deep breath, forcing herself not to scream, and quickly deleted the line, or so she thought, before resaving the file. She rechecked the updated version. The line was still there. No matter what she tried, it refused to go away. The next morning, the line had morphed. Now it read, "We have coffee in an open seat, Lee North. Stop by any time." The text glowed in a soft, taunting manner. The sense of being watched, no, of being invited, filled her with an eerie mixture of fear and fascination. She wanted to escalate this to her superiors, but she already knew how that would go. They would label it a system anomaly and file it for later investigation, perhaps decades from now. She had to approach this differently. And so she did the unthinkable: she used her clearance to access the stealth observation logs on Earth. That information was meant for the Department of Primitive Species Surveillance, but the logs existed in an affiliated repository to which she had partial oversight. She told herself she'd just read a few entries, confirm whether Earth's illusions were real, and maybe glean something about how an Earth-based infiltration into the archives had happened. Instead, she discovered a labyrinth of contradictory data. Thousands of probes launched around Earth returned conflicting reports. Some described humanity as hopelessly reliant on internal combustion engines, while others hinted at advanced quantum field manipulations that no legitimate, pre-industrial civilization should possess. A few logs had been corroded, as if the data itself was tampered with. Then she saw repeated references to a brand new stealth probe that had gone missing days ago. The final line in that probe's log read, "Human child making eye contact." Breaking off, and then it ended. Lee North clenched her mandibles. She considered the possibility that Earth was, in fact, playing the galaxy like a cheap flute. Her mind traced potential motives. Earth might cultivate an image of primitivism to lure in invaders or explorers, then glean their technology and incorporate it into their own. If so, that explains how Earth always seemed to remain at a stable but unimpressive level of progress for centuries, even though the observational logs said they should have advanced far beyond typical chemical rockets by now. Each time someone approached them with the intention to either conquer or enlighten them, that someone disappeared, leaving behind only cryptic transmissions. The evidence was almost too staggering. It suggested humans were a hidden apex species, masters of assimilation, illusions, and comedic deception. She could see them laughing behind that veil of cat videos and incompetent politics. And apparently, they were aware that she, Lee North, was looking into it. She decided to investigate the archive transmissions from Earth. She found one labeled Public Broadcast, which was perplexing. Typically, when a planet had public broadcasts, they were rife with raw information that advanced agencies could decode or manipulate. Earth's public broadcasts were so saturated with trifles, sports, silly dramas, endless streams of debates, comedic skits, advertisements for meaningless items, that it seemed designed to scramble an alien observer's capacity for rational analysis. And yet, in the background of those transmissions, Lee North saw fleeting patterns of static, as if the real content hid behind the entertainment's noise. She tried to isolate a sample to decode it, but her system froze, then spontaneously restarted. When it came back online, a cheerful pop-up appeared on her screen: "Your Windows update is complete. Thank you for your patience. Would you like a cappuccino?" She stared at it, uncomprehending. Windows update? Cappuccino? The faint beep from her console sounded almost like laughter. Day after day, Lenortha's private quest became an obsession. Though the archives never slept, her colleagues started noticing the tension in her posture and the drained color of her carapace. She'd wave them off with forced laughter, but inside, she felt like she was stepping ever deeper into quicksand. The more she dug, the more the archives seemed to fight her. Documents mislabeled themselves. New warnings about Earth showed up in random corners of the repository. And always, that whisper in the data: "Coffee. Join us." She feared some unstoppable infiltration of the entire archivist system. Could Earth have already woven itself into the bureaucratic frameworks? She thought back to the Lost Civilization's final words: "They find ways into your systems. They make you see what they want you to see." That was exactly what seemed to be happening. But if Earth was that powerful, if they had access to everything, why not simply wipe out any references to themselves altogether? Then again, perhaps total secrecy was never the plan. Perhaps letting a few glimpses trickle out only served to deepen the trap for the curious. One night, as she was about to leave the archives, she received an anonymous message on her personal datapad. It was a short text: "For your eyes alone." She opened it and saw a set of star coordinates, slightly offset from Earth's star system. Alongside the coordinates was a date and time, precisely 3 cycles from then, with a simple directive: "Arrive if you want the truth." Her hearts pounded in unison. This was exactly how people vanished in cautionary holodramas. Yet she found herself enthralled by the possibility. Could it be a faction of exiles who had escaped Earth's illusions? Or maybe an archivist gone rogue with definitive proof? She typed a few queries back into the same encrypted channel, but all she received were glitchy cat faces that blinked and repeated the phrase: "We are awake, but not quite. We are asleep, but not truly." She found no other explanation. Still, she knew she had to go. She took leave from her post, something she had never done except during official rest cycles. She fabricated an excuse about visiting a distant cousin. Her superiors barely noticed. After all, the archives had thousands of employees, and she was just one. Quietly, she hopped a transport ship to the coordinates. During that journey, she pored over the warnings again, taking comfort in how dozens of extinct empires had apparently encountered Earth. Perhaps it wouldn't be so perilous if she was simply meeting a whistleblower. The star coordinates led her to a drifting station, an older model that smelled faintly of stale air and re-filtered water. It was labeled Outpost 7R, though no official record matched that name. She drifted into Docking Bay 2A, scanning for signs of life. An automated system welcomed her in a cheery, computerized voice. It offered her coffee as well, to her exasperation. Inside the station, she encountered exactly one being, cloaked in a hood. Its shape was humanoid, though she could not see the face beneath the shroud. The figure led her through winding corridors to a cramped chamber that looked more like a workshop than a meeting room. There, dozens of monitors displayed Earth's transmissions in real time. From comedic talk shows to conspiratorial documentaries about UFOs, from people filming themselves dancing in their kitchens to formal addresses about space programs. Yet each feed had a second layer. On these monitors, Lee North could see subtle flickers of advanced starship designs drawn in the background, mathematical formulas scribbled in children's cartoons, and half-hidden anomalies in the corners of every broadcast. The figure stepped forward, pulling back the hood. Lenortha's hearts nearly stopped. The being was clearly a Shendri, the same race that supposedly vanished centuries ago. "I see the archives still function," said Shendri with a wry smile. They haven't erased all traces of us. Or of Earth. Over the next hours, Shendri introduced himself as Zayla. He explained that his empire was never destroyed, it had been repurposed. We were fooled by their illusions, Zayla said, gesturing at one of the monitors. A human newscast droned on about a minor political scandal, but the corner of the screen displayed a map of a star cluster that no pre-industrial planet should know existed. When we realized the truth, that Earth was far beyond us, it was too late. Our leaders tried to attack anyway, convinced it was only a ruse. The next day, every piece of Shendri technology, from our warships to our genetic splicers, malfunctioned simultaneously. And before we understood what happened, we were offered a choice: vanish from the galactic stage or become part of Earth's cosmic masquerade. Lenorth watched in horror as Zayla recounted how some Shendri had chosen to fight and were wiped clean from reality, as if they had never existed. Others accepted the invitation. If we joined, we were allowed to live, Zayla went on. Some of us took on new identities. We scattered ourselves across hidden outposts. But we're all entangled with Earth's illusions now. We rely on them, ironically, to remain safe. Lenorth felt her sense of normalcy crumble. Why would Earth allow you to exist at all? Why not just absorb your technology and be done with it? Her question hung in the stale air. Zayla gave a weary sigh. They do absorb it, in one sense. But they also enjoy watchers, participants, co-conspirators. I think humans see the galaxy as a grand stage play. They want an audience as much as they want peace. So they let us mingle in the shadows, feeding them knowledge, while their illusions keep the rest of the galaxy ignorant. He clicked on a separate feed, a channel showing thousands of satellites orbiting Earth. This is their real defense array. It's an advanced lattice of quantum nodes disguised as junk satellites or simple broadcast relays. They monitor everything within parsecs. Even out here, we're under their watch. Lenorth felt the same swirl of dread return, the sense that some unseen entity was listening to every breath, waiting to see how she'd react. She asked whether Earth had always been like this, and Zayla shrugged. I suspect so. The oldest records mention Earth meddling with species who tried to colonize them back in their so-called medieval era. But the illusions have become more refined. The illusions are multi-layered now, from the chaos of their internet to the unpredictability of their leadership. It's all carefully orchestrated to look sloppy. Then he frowned, as if remembering something painful. The illusions also tempt some species to step in and offer help, or try to forcibly uplift them. Once that species tries, it's game over. Lenorth realized that many philanthropic empires might have vanished that way, lured by Earth's apparently struggling nature. But how is it possible for Earth to maintain that level of deception for so long, she asked. Zayla gave her a sad smile. They found ways to unify their global population when threatened, or they learned how to keep enough internal strife visible so no one suspects they can unify. I can't begin to fathom all the details. But trust me, they've had eons of practice. As Zayla showed her a final feed, Lenorth's breath caught in her throat. The image was of an advanced facility on Earth's surface, disguised as a research laboratory. But behind the facade of simple greenhouse structures and unremarkable equipment, scans revealed a colossal quantum entanglement engine. Lenorth recognized the theoretical outlines from distant, advanced races that specialized in spacetime manipulation. Except this seemed more refined, more powerful than anything in the known galaxy. The energy readings alone implied they could warp entire solar systems if they chose. She braced herself against the console. And they're just leaving it there, in plain sight, she whispered. Zayla nodded. Hidden behind farmland and comedic distractions. A perfect camouflage. Before she could ask more, an alert went off on one of Zayla's monitors. They've found us, Zayla said, lips tightening. They're offering us a courtesy call. Lenorth heard a voice echo through the intercom, smooth, with a curious warmth. We see you, Outpost 7R. Are you enjoying your coffee? Because we've just brewed a fresh pot. The voice chuckled lightly. And to our guest from the archives, we've prepared a seat for you too. Don't be shy. Lenorth felt her heart seize. She spun around, looking for an escape route. But Zayla placed a hand gently on her shoulder. They're not threatening us. Not directly, he said with resignation. If they wanted us gone, we'd be gone already. This is their invitation. Or their warning. Or both. Lenorth tried to gather her composure. Her mind raced, analyzing the galaxy's precarious situation. There were countless civilizations out there, each believing Earth was a trivial curiosity. Yet, in truth, Earth was a silent kingpin, letting others remain unaware. She felt fear, yes, but also a strange pull. Perhaps that was how Earth lured people in. Curiosity. Fascination. A chance to peek behind the cosmic curtain. What happens if we contact them directly? She asked in a trembling voice. Zayla exhaled. There's protocol for that, or so I've heard. You'd need to travel to Earth. From there, you either become part of their grand charade, or you disappear. He paused. I've never known anyone to leave after they arrived. Lenortha's stomach churned at the idea of going to Earth. Yet she thought of all the documents labeled Warning, Earth, each cautioning how the illusions lured entire empires. She wondered if the archives themselves were compromised. She realized Earth might be unstoppable. So, was it better to remain ignorant, like the rest of the galaxy, or see the truth firsthand? She hadn't decided yet when Zayla's entire outpost flickered. A bright overhead light buzzed, and Lenorth found herself in darkness. Moments later, emergency luminance returned, revealing the monitors had changed to a single image of a stylized coffee cup. Steam rose from it, morphing into shapes that suggested star charts. A calm voice, the same from before, said, "The next shuttle to Earth departs in 1 standard hour. We invite you to meet us. We do so politely. Our illusions are not meant for harm, but we do enjoy visitors." Then a gentle beep, and the outpost fell silent. Zayla's eyes glimmered with fear. They're rarely this forward. Lenorth felt her entire body tremble. The human transmissions usually showed comedic or mundane things, but this was direct contact. She swallowed the lump in her throat. "I might go," she said. She wanted to run, but if she simply returned to the archives, she'd never rest, never break free of the gnawing knowledge that Earth was out there, half asleep and half awake. Zayla frowned. "We Shendri cannot join you, or at least I cannot. If I arrive, I become part of them irrevocably. I prefer my autonomy, limited as it is out here. But you, perhaps you can find answers." Lenorth found the shuttle with disturbing ease. It was waiting in a docking bay she hadn't noticed before. The ship's hull read Passenger Vessel Dreamliner, which seemed incongruous with the darkness of the outpost. Stepping inside, she half expected to see a pilot, but the cockpit was unoccupied. The door sealed behind her, and a soft female voice said, "Welcome aboard. We'll be leaving shortly. Coffee?" She declined the offer, though the smell of something rich and aromatic wafted through the air. She strapped herself in, anxiety roiling her innards as the vessel navigated out into the vacuum. The trip, surprisingly, was smoother than any standard flight she'd experienced. The ship's advanced inertial dampeners worked seamlessly, making her realize that it was no ordinary passenger craft. At one point, she glimpsed a star map on the central console. It showed their path to Earth. No stops. No delays. She forced herself to breathe slowly. She was going to Earth, the planet of illusions. If the rumors were true, she might not return. She tried to pass the time reviewing data about Earth's known culture. Historians described them as a fractious species, prone to war, but also to art and curiosity. They worshiped technology in chaotic spurts, yet seemed unable to unify. Yet her own research suggested they had unified for a darker purpose, to feign disunity. She read about their countless global debates, each overshadowing leaps in quantum research. She scanned mention after mention of internet drama, the conspiracies, the petty arguments, the unbelievably advanced data encryption hidden behind comedic vines. Every piece of official commentary from the Department of Primitive Species Management concluded that humans were charmingly misguided. Charming, Lee North thought wryly, like a black hole with a welcoming sign. She realized hours had passed without her noticing. The voice of the ship then whispered, preparing for atmospheric entry. Her heart pounded again. No spaceship from the central galaxy should be able to just waltz into Earth's atmosphere unannounced, but apparently, this craft had clearance. Through the viewport, she saw clouds swirling, parted by shimmering arcs of energy. Then she saw the continents below, the spread of lights across them. The illusions had begun. Or maybe they never ceased. Upon landing, Lee North was guided out of the craft by an automated walkway. She found herself on what looked like a standard runway in the middle of a rolling green field. Was this a secret base, or something else? Approaching her was a single human figure, dressed in a casual shirt and pants, smiling disarmingly. "Welcome to Earth," he said. "I'm Marcus. You must be Lee North." She stared at him. He seemed utterly at ease, not even wearing advanced protective gear. "How do you know my name?" was all she managed to say. Marcus laughed softly, the sound so warm it disarmed her more than she liked. "Well," he replied, "we've been in contact for a while, through your archives. Sorry about the misfiling, but we had to get your attention somehow." Lee North's voice stammered as she asked, "Are you going to?" She couldn't finish the question. Marcus just chuckled. "We're not here to hurt you. Actually, we're quite happy you made the journey. We rarely get visitors who come willingly." Then, gesturing for her to follow, he led her toward a small vehicle on wheels, an automobile, if her files were correct. "Hop in," he said, "I'll show you the real Earth." During the ride, Lee North peered out the windows at farmland, small towns, highways. She saw vehicles driven by other humans, spotted archaic gas stations, glimpsed modest houses with children playing in yards. This looked exactly like the primitive Earth from the official reports. She saw no sign of advanced technology or illusions. For a moment, she thought maybe the conspiracy had been mistaken. Then, almost casually, Marcus pressed a button on the dashboard. The entire landscape dissolved into a shimmering overlay, revealing beneath it a cityscape bristling with sleek towers and sky bridges, everything humming with a faint glow that screamed advanced quantum engineering. Even the farmland, now that it flickered away, was replaced by farmland of a different nature, vertical farming setups on the edges of a towering superstructure. The city extended far beyond what her eyes could capture. Marcus tapped the button again, and the illusions snapped back into place, showing the quaint rural scene. Lee North felt her chest tighten. That was it, the illusions. So meticulously layered that she almost questioned which version was real. Marcus shrugged with a grin. "We call it the overlay. It's how we keep the galaxy at bay. We also discovered that if we keep ourselves looking powerless, no one sees us as a threat, until it's too late." They stopped at a small cafe that read "Beans of Tomorrow" on the front sign. She half expected it to morph into some cosmic command center, but it remained a cozy coffee shop. Inside, humans sipped steaming beverages, typed on what appeared to be laptops, and chatted casually. Marcus guided Lee North to a corner table. She watched as he waved at the barista. "2 cappuccinos," he said, "extra quantum swirl." The barista nodded with a playful wink. Lenorth was unsure if she heard that right. Quantum swirl? She began to ask, but Marcus answered before she finished. It's how we infuse our beverages with certain capabilities. Don't worry, it won't harm you. She accepted the cup warily. The aroma was intoxicating, and she took a small sip. Her senses practically sang. It was as if the coffee not only tasted delicious but also expanded her mental clarity. For a moment, she glimpsed the bustling illusions around her, layered in fractal complexities. Each swirl revealed glimpses of hidden architecture. She gasped and nearly dropped the cup, but Marcus steadied her hand. Easy, he said kindly, it's a lot to take in at once. She forced herself to speak. You could rule the galaxy if you wanted. Why not just do it? Marcus's smile faded slightly. He considered her question. Maybe we could, he acknowledged. But why bother? We discovered centuries ago that once you openly display power, you become a target for alliances, rebellions, endless warfare. If you appear weak, you can quietly shape events to your liking without the trouble. Those who discover us inevitably face a choice: join or vanish. We used to be more brutal. But as our culture evolved, we realized that if we offered assimilation as a choice, we gained allies, not corpses. Lenorth swallowed. The implications were vast. Earth manipulated the galaxy from behind a facade, controlling it through illusions and infiltration. So all those extinct races, they're not extinct? She asked. Marcus gave a sympathetic nod. Some are. The ones who insisted on attacking us. Most found that we were persuasive. They now live among us, or in secret outposts, weaving illusions with us. The galaxy sees them as gone. In truth, they're hidden in the overlay. Lenorth felt a surge of conflicting emotions: horror, admiration, sympathy, even a strange relief. Earth was not a rampaging conqueror but a cunning trickster. She asked the question that had weighed on her mind: what about me? Why bring me here? Marcus sipped his coffee. We could see your determination. You truly wanted to know the truth. We respect that. Think of this as a job offer. We can't let you leave with your knowledge unless you become part of it. You can help us manage the illusions, refine the archive infiltration so we don't cause too many anomalies. We're always in need of bright minds. Lenorth felt cornered and enthralled at the same time. She whispered, and if I refuse? Marcus sighed. We'll remove your memories of Earth's illusions and send you back to your archives. You'll remember only that Earth is some inconsequential place. In time, you'll forget about any anomalies. If we do it right, you'll live blissfully ignorant. She didn't speak immediately. Her experiences so far made her think that forgetting might be a relief, but a deeper part of her hated the idea of losing what she had learned. Despite all the terror, she wanted to understand the illusions. Maybe it was the archivist in her, the impulse to gather knowledge, preserve it. But she also felt uneasy about joining a cosmic deception. Isn't this manipulative? She asked quietly. Marcus shrugged. Maybe. But the galaxy isn't a friendly place. Empires rise and fall, often through violence. We found a way to avoid that constant warfare. Our illusions serve as a deterrent. And frankly, we enjoy the art of it. Our cat videos, our memes, they're comedic, sure, but they're also coded glimpses of how we share data among ourselves. The illusions are part cloak, part hobby. We don't want to spread across the galaxy openly. We want to cultivate this playground of ours with minimal bloodshed. Is that so terrible? Lenorth pressed her mandibles together. She was not sure if it was terrible. Was it any worse than an empire that wages war for resources? Earth's method was subterfuge, but it seemed to spare many from large-scale conflict, at least from Earth's direct hand. She gazed into her cappuccino, the foam swirling in mesmerizing patterns. She realized that if she joined, she would become a caretaker of illusions. She would have access to unimaginable technology, quantum entanglement engines, advanced infiltration algorithms, and even the cosmic stage of cat memes. She thought of Zayla, living in that lonely outpost, half in fear and half in awe. "All right," she said softly. "I'll join. On one condition: I get to preserve my identity, remain in the archives, but feed you the data you need, and shape how Earth is perceived without wiping out entire star systems." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "We're not in the habit of indiscriminate destruction these days, so that's acceptable. You can remain an archivist, the best possible vantage point for shaping how Earth is officially classified." Then he extended his hand across the table. "Welcome aboard, Lee North. Let's show you the ropes." In the months that followed, Lee North found herself living a double life. She returned to the archives with official business concluded, but quietly connected with Earth's hidden network. She could see the illusions they spun from the inside, watch them manipulate data so that Earth's star system always appeared unimpressive, or so that any advanced signals from humans were reinterpreted as random cosmic noise. She became adept at forging documents, ensuring that whenever a new species began studying Earth too intently, the archives would supply incomplete or misleading references. She even managed to quell the "Warning, Earth" file, labeling it as a comedic hoax. But she also found that Earth's illusions had a whimsical side. One day, she received a private stream from Marcus, footage of a new Earth city that existed purely in a hidden layer of the overlay, where Shendri, Palfari, and other so-called extinct species lived in peace. They studied new breakthroughs in science while sipping quantum coffee. Lee North felt a pang of guilt about deceiving the rest of the galaxy. Yet she understood that unveiling Earth's true might would cause an uproar. Possibly a galaxy-wide attempt to destroy or enslave Earth, which would lead to catastrophic losses on every side. Earth was prepared for that, but it would be a universal tragedy. Slowly, Lee North accepted her role as an architect of illusions. She maintained a stoic front at work, but whenever she had a spare moment, she'd slip into the hidden network to coordinate new ruses. She found that some illusions were delightfully harmless, for instance, releasing random rumors that humans believed in a flat planet, or that they worshipped rubber ducks, to saturate the xenobiology forums with comedic nonsense. She realized that Earth's illusions weren't just about scaring away potential threats, they were also about entertaining themselves and their allies. The comedic aspect seemed intrinsic to human culture. They loved turning their unstoppable genius into a cosmic joke. One evening, while scanning the new messages in the hidden network, she encountered something that made her exhale in relief, a signal from Zayla. "We're good," he wrote. "No signs of aggression from Earth. They've expanded the overlay near my outpost. Life is less lonely now." Lee North smiled. Perhaps Earth's illusions were not wholly sinister. They had a paternalistic edge, but apparently, they took steps to care for those who joined. Of course, Lee North occasionally felt that twinge of moral unease. Was it right for Earth to hide so thoroughly, to keep entire star systems in ignorance? Then she'd recall the centuries of warnings, how many times a would-be conqueror or infiltrator had tried to forcibly shape Earth's destiny, resulting in their own downfall. She knew that under the illusions, Earth had formidable weapons that could unravel entire empires overnight. Their illusions, ironically, prevented them from having to use those weapons too often. That was the cosmic dance. She only hoped that no species would grow so arrogant as to attempt a large-scale assault. If that day came, Earth would not hesitate to protect itself, illusions or not. And the galaxy would be changed forever. One cycle, she received a special request from Earth's network. A flamboyant empire called the Relix Combine had begun to collect data on Earth's cultural transmissions. They were labeling humans as the comedic side project of cosmic evolution, in a widely read academic paper. A sure sign that they might soon attempt cultural annexation. Earth wanted Lee North to misfile the relevant data so that the Relix Combine's research would remain half-complete. Lee North complied, mixing up the references, altering a few key statistics to suggest Earth had never harnessed nuclear power. She felt a flicker of pride as she did so. She was becoming adept at forging illusions within illusions. Perhaps she had become so immersed in Earth's grand masquerade that she no longer saw it as wrong. Or maybe she still did, but it no longer bothered her. After all, the alternative, letting the Relix discover Earth's advanced stage, could lead to war. Earth's illusions were not perfect, but they were a buffer for the rest of the galaxy's brazen curiosity. Over time, Lee North noticed fewer and fewer ominous new files about Earth showing up in the archives. She realized that was because Earth had improved its infiltration. Now, the illusions extended even to the bureaucratic software. The misfiling phenomenon was no longer an unintended glitch, it was a system Earth had co-opted to automatically shuffle suspicious documents away. She found herself quietly impressed by the elegance of it all. The more she cooperated, the less friction she encountered. The galaxy remained blissfully oblivious, painting Earth as a dusty backwater. The unstoppable illusions advanced. She occasionally wondered if they would eventually reveal themselves. But judging by Earth's history, they thrived in the shadows, perfecting quantum coffee and unleashing comedic short videos about dancing animals. In an odd way, they found solace in letting the galaxy scorn them as simpletons. It was, as Marcus had said, so much less trouble than brandishing unstoppable might. One quiet evening, while Lee North was alone in her apartment on Royd Prime, she received a direct ping from Marcus. The message read, "We're hosting a universal watch party of our next rocket launch. Care to tune in?" She laughed softly. Another rocket launch. She knew Earth had the capability to teleport entire fleets across galaxies, yet they still staged these chemical rocket launches for the public. But she accepted the invitation, streaming the event live from her hidden console. There on the screen, she saw throngs of humans cheering as a tall rocket, belching flames and smoke, lifted off into the sky. It was a spectacle of archaic engineering, and yet the crowd roared with excitement. Beneath her comedic exasperation, Lee North felt a surge of admiration. These illusions gave humans joy. They were in on the grand cosmic joke, performing for the galaxy and for themselves. She sipped the quantum-infused tea that Earth had shipped her as part of her covert supplies. In that moment, she understood the strange beauty of Earth's illusions. Perhaps they slumbered only in pretense, but they lived each day with a zest that reminded her of simpler times in her own life. As the rocket vanished into the clouds, the broadcast cut to a panel of so-called experts from various advanced species who ridiculed Earth for still relying on chemical propulsion. Each expert boasted that their own civilization had surpassed such technology centuries ago. Lee North couldn't help but grin, because behind them, faintly visible in a glitchy corner of the feed, was a swirling pattern that matched the quantum encryption Earth used. She realized Earth was broadcasting this entire program specifically to amuse themselves and keep up the facade. The illusions were layered even in the commentary. She turned off the feed, letting herself bask in the knowledge that the entire galaxy was seeing something that wasn't quite real, while the real Earth soared far beyond what the watchers could fathom. Late that night, she wrote a personal log entry. She rarely did that anymore, too busy forging or shuffling official documents for Earth's masquerade. But she felt compelled to record her thoughts for future reference. Every extinct or fallen race had left behind a warning about Earth's illusory slumber. Now I see they never truly fell. They simply joined the show. Earth does not sleep. The illusions are a gift and a trap, an invitation to watch them toy with the rest of us. I have accepted that invitation. I am complicit, and strangely, I am content. She reread those words, letting the hush of the night fill her mind. She remembered the days when she was methodically unflappable, a simple archivist who believed in sorting facts without bias. Now she sorted illusions, and it felt oddly liberating. She closed the log, tucking it behind 7 layers of encryption courtesy of Earth. Perhaps someday, if Earth's illusions ever came undone, future archivists would find her words. They'd discover that Lee North was one who straddled the line between the unknowing and the knowing, the watchers and the watches. Within a few weeks, Lee North received a final communication from Zayla. He'd decided to accept Earth's invitation, fully integrating into their overlay. He wrote, "I was afraid for too long. Now I realize living in fear is no life at all. Earth's illusions, though they are a grand performance, offer more honesty than the lies my people told themselves." Lee North responded with support, promising to meet him once he settled. As time went on, more messages trickled in from other so-called vanished species, each forging new alliances in Earth's hidden cityscapes. The galaxy at large noticed no such transformations. After all, official records showed those species were long gone. Lee North caught herself smiling. She found it both comforting and deeply strange that such advanced secrets were hidden behind a veil of comedic trivialities. Yet she understood it was probably the best scenario for peaceful coexistence. Earth's illusions dissuaded open conflict, encouraged assimilation over annihilation, and provided an odd sense of belonging to any who discovered the truth. Now, as the cycles passed and Lee North stood at her archivist console, new documents about Earth occasionally flickered in. She processed them calmly, sometimes giggling to herself. She had learned that if the illusions kept the galaxy's desire to dominate Earth at bay, it was a net positive for everyone. And should a would-be conqueror ignore all the warnings and attempt to strike anyway, they would find themselves swallowed up by illusions they had never anticipated. Earth pretended to sleep. The illusions gave shape to that pretense. The illusions gave Earth time to grow, to watch, to plan. Watching from her vantage point, Lee North realized that every mention of Earth's inactivity was a testament to the scale of human cunning. The fallen race's warnings had been correct all along, Earth only pretended to sleep. One morning, a junior archivist approached Lee North, eyes wide, holding a small data chip that read, "Urgent misfile, warning, Earth." The junior archivist stammered, "Senior curator, I keep trying to file this, but it keeps reappearing. It's flagged as the 74th misfile. I'm not sure what's going on." Lee North, smoothing the lines on her uniform, accepted the chip with a reassuring nod. "Don't worry. It's just an old glitch. I'll take care of it." The junior archivist looked relieved and hurried away. Lee North smiled faintly as she slid the chip into her console and saw the old text. She read the frantic scrawls of extinct civilizations, each pleading for the galaxy to heed their words. Then she saw the appended line at the bottom, "If you're reading this, we have fresh coffee. Care to join?" She shook her head, amused and resigned. She tapped a few keys, redirecting the file to Earth's overlay for further comedic refinement, a new sub-protocol she had introduced. The system winked at her, yes, literally winked on the screen, before the file vanished into that labyrinth of illusions. She realized that as far as the archives were concerned, she had just solved the misfile. In reality, Earth had received it, and she was helping them maintain the great cosmic joke. She leaned back in her chair, the same way she used to before everything changed, and yet everything was different now. She felt no panic. Lee North had found her place in the galaxy's largest deception. She was the silent orchestrator behind the benign illusions that kept Earth's secret safe. Outside, civilization still rose and fell, occasionally sending out probes or research teams to find primitive Earth. Each was quietly funneled into confusion, half-truths, or comedic distractions. Meanwhile, Earth thrived behind the overlay, quietly perfecting new wonders, forging alliances with those who saw beyond the facade. Lee North wondered how long the illusions would continue. Centuries? Millennia? Indefinitely? She recognized that illusions needed watchers and watchers needed illusions. Perhaps that was the dynamic Earth had perfected. As she returned to her tasks, Lee North listened with half an ear to her fellow archivists gossiping about some trivial matter. Her own gaze flicked between official documents and the discrete feed from Earth's overlay. She noted a new comedic skit going viral on Earth, this time involving humans in strange inflatable costumes galloping in a city parade. Thousands of watchers from around the galaxy would see it soon and laugh, labeling humans as delightfully ridiculous. They would not suspect that in the basement of that same city block, advanced quantum servers integrated Shendry biological computing with Pulfari infiltration algorithms. They would not imagine that the entire parade route was lined with hidden nodes that gleaned data from every passing satellite. The watchers would simply see more foolishness from a minor backwater planet. And so the illusions rolled on, mesmerizing the unsuspecting, enthralling the curious, embracing the adventurous. Sipping a fresh cup of Earth-imported coffee, Lee North felt a sense of kinship with the cunning species that had woven this massive web. She thought of the day she first saw the words, "Warning. Earth," scrawled in those archives, how she felt a tingle of unease. And here she was, parted from fear, immersed in a cosmic game of illusions. She typed a final note into her personal log: "The illusions endure, staving off galactic chaos." Every fallen race that tried to sound the alarm ended up discovering Earth's hidden apex. Their warnings echo through the archives, unheeded. Earth's slumber is an act, but a benevolent one, in its own strange way. Perhaps we all slumber behind illusions of normalcy. Earth simply does it best. With that, she closed her log, breathed in the aroma of quantum coffee, and got back to work. The illusions waited for no one, and she had many more documents to misfile. One day, she might watch from the front row if Earth finally decided to reveal its true nature. Until then, she would help keep the greatest secret in the galaxy safe and well-caffeinated, hidden behind cat videos, comedic politics, and archaic rocket launches. After all, Earth only pretends to sleep, and she, Lee North, had learned to rest easy under the comforting hush of that illusory slumber.